Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another session on CSR Lens. This is the platform where we have a 360 discussion on corporate social responsibility and sustainability. My name is Ohinewa Brown, and today we are having a discussion on children. This is a topic that is I'm so passionate about because our children are our future leaders, and it's very important for us to look at for ways and means to give them protection, to give them all access to the essential services that are important to their development and their growth. So on Monday, which was the 12th of April, we marked the International Day for Street Children. And I think that over the period, these international days that all of us, even in Ghana, do celebrate or mark, has been days for talks and issues about implementation of existing policies. But what exactly are we doing? Now, in the wake of COVID-19, access to essential services has been very important or paramount for all of us, especially for us, the adults. All of us have been looking out for ways and means to have access to water, to good education, even from home because schools were closed, to things that would help us to have a better life. But have we thought of our children who find themselves on the street? How do they have access to these essential services? And what can we do as stakeholders, as leaders that have been given responsibilities? What can we do to ensure that we do our best to do things the right way? Now, to help us do a discussion on improving access to essential services is the Executive Director of Street Children Empowerment Center, Mr. Paul Seme. He's going to help us to have a discussion on the role his organization is playing over the period on street children and how best they are working with stakeholders to resolve the challenges that are bedeviling street children in our country. Now, welcome and thank you so much, Mr. Paul, for accepting to speak to me on CSR Lens.
Thank you very much, Ohenewa, for having me. It's indeed a privilege anytime I get the opportunity to be on the media, to talk to people, raise more awareness, let people know about our future, because the future is the children. So it's indeed an honor and a privilege to be here. And I greet all your viewers and your listeners. Good evening. It's my first time here. So good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening. So this is the second time I'm having a discussion with you on your role with regards to street children. But let me find out from you. I mean, this week, or for background's sake, statistics as of 2014 from the Social Welfare Department indicates that Ghana has about, in fact, it's just Accra, about 61,000 of our children are on our streets. We celebrated World International Day for Street Children, assessing essential services. What does this mean to you for someone who have been an advocate in this space for so many years?
Okay, so thank you very much. For someone who works with children, I would say there are several layers work like every child needs in their life. A child is first given by the Christian by God to a father and mother. They have their nuclear family or extended family who are really, really close, immediate duty bearers who are tasked to raise this child to become all their society wants them to see. Then we have other the society, which will involve school, which will involve church, which will involve any sets external from the nuclear family that raises the child. Then we have a government that has the ultimate responsibility. That is why anybody has a child and decides to do anything abusive to them, the government can take them off. So although the child is born to a nuclear family, the responsibility of that child is not only lying on that family. So I will take it back a bit from that point and say that So every child that is born, if you as a government, if you are responsible for every child that is born, and you don't know the numbers of children that are born in a day, then you are not in charge. I don't know if you are getting my point. So if and if these children that are born to you as a state, once children are born in this country, they are going to be given some form of nationality, identity. Already that is a responsibility that the state must offer at the very beginning of that child's life, meaning that right from birth, the state has responsibilities that it performs in helping this child get a name and a nationality. So when we say access to street children, imagine a teenage mother who has given birth on the street. Our government may have no idea that this is a boy or a girl born to this or that, and these are the condition they have, and this is the name they have been given. Now, right from birth, before you get birth certificate in this country, you need to be paying for the birth certificate. This would definitely go to deny a lot of children their right to name and nationality, because the birth certificate already is what allows you that official name and nationality. So if we say access to children, it would mean giving that street child who is born today on the street in Makola or in Katamanto or in Agbogbloshi, in Tema Station, the right to have that nationality. If you step back, even during the birth process itself, it is a health issue. So this child must have access to healthcare. Way before education comes in, this child must have access to healthcare, because as a country, if any parent gives birth to any child and decides to do anything abusive to that child, that parent can be taken to court and can be sentenced, like we saw recently happen. So if the state fails to give access to healthcare for a child just because you are born to a mother who is not able to provide that, then the state is not providing access. The state is denying that child that right to healthcare, basic healthcare at the very beginning. Then one very, very fundamental thing, apart from you being alive, is being productive. To be productive, our society, we have said education is the way we transfer knowledge, we share information, we get you to become that person. So every child needs to have access to education, be it crèche, preschool. So if you look at a child's formation from age 0 to 6, that is when a lot of the attitudes and a lot of the habit, the personality is formed for the child before they build on that. Now, how are we making sure that a child that is born on the street today has access to education at a very, very basic level, all the way through the universal basic education? Then you have the right to shelter, you have the right to decent living, feeding. All of it relates to making that child a decent human being. So whether you are born to mother A or family A or B, as a child, you don't choose. So once you don't choose, and we have signed a constitution and we have a state, the state is assumed that they will provide the basics for you. So we need to give street children access so that they are able to contribute meaningfully to this state we have all signed up to as a country.
I know that the Constitution actually gives protection to almost every child. It doesn't matter where you find yourself. It doesn't matter what kind of background you come from. I mean, as a country, we understand that this is what the Constitution says, but then we are failing to give protection to these children. I mean, is it an issue of our inability to get it done, or this is just a failure on the part of our leaders?
I don't think that using the word failure would be something I would go for. But I would say that we have done what we can. If you look at the history of this country, we have FQ, right from our first president. We have free compulsory universal basic education. Successive government in and out have redefined this to mean, and recently it includes senior high school. So, what is the point I am building on? We have written in our healthcare books pre-maternal healthcare. We have written in our healthcare books free health insurance for vulnerable children. But we have, although successive government have mentioned these things and have tried, invested money in trying to do this, increasing access to children to go to school, there are different sets of children, and we cannot look at all the children in that manner. For example, I was born to a mother who had 6 children. My dad was born very early in life. Okay, so if you are comparing me to someone who was born, if you are comparing me to, I don't know, at my age, someone like a Kufado born to a family, a father, mother in an affluent family, born in a very stable environment. Mother, father are there, what they would go to, what they would have to get in life is all already predetermined before he is born. If you come up with a law and say that we will all have free SHS, we all have, those who are vulnerable have free healthcare. Of course, the public school now is supposed to be free, but there are barriers that are preventing me, who was born to a mother who never got education and was on and it's thinking about bread and butter, to somebody who was born in a more stable family where the parents had education, the parents have they have things thought through and worked out when it comes to what they will eat and where they want them to go to school and all of that. So clearly we need to look at the barriers that are going to exclude the most vulnerable in our communities. So what are the barriers currently with healthcare? Although it is stated clearly that street and vulnerable children should be getting free national healthcare, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because my organization has a letterhead that is boldly stating Street Children Empowerment Foundation. Now, we would even write names of children we have found on the streets that need health insurance. The national health will still require money. The national health will come to our premises, register children there only if we are paying for this service. Clearly, there's a disconnect there. The social welfare is supposed to submit a list of name and get them registered and all. There is a barrier that is preventing children on the streets from getting this healthcare. It doesn't, I am not saying that there should be no way of checking whether you're a street child or not. But if the way of checking means that we have to go and find a social welfare zonal officer and get them to identify the 60,000 street children in Accra before they can get free healthcare, then clearly that is a problem. How can we work with institutions like CEF, with institutions like Chance for Children? There are several NGOs working with street children. How can we use them as key experts to be able to help identify children like this so that they are able to get a free healthcare? It's a very simple puzzle to solve, right? Because if we are working with street children, then if you want street children to get free health care or national health insurance, then you just come to us. Social welfare certificate is there because that's what a social welfare certificate is for. If we were not working with street children, there will be no need for us to have the social welfare certificate. So once we have that, you simply make us enlist all children to you, and then you enlist them there. If you want to get into GES, we are writing to GES. We are always going to the streets, identify children on the streets, and then take them to public schools. We are not taking them to our private schools. Say, for example, we do not believe that we should have a school exclusively rating, this is a school for street children. This is in consonance with national policy that no child should be excluded and be put into a branding that you are this or you are that. Every child is supposed to get that same basic education. But we take them to GES, end of term exams, they have to pay extra classes, they have to buy their exercise books, they have to buy their uniform, they have to, in some cases, pay utility bills, electricity, water, security man fees.
And that is whose responsibility?
This is the child whose mother is on the streets, and probably she's been convinced by us that her education is his or her right, that has gone to school. He has to pay these things. It's costing over 1,000 Ghana cedis for a child to get free education at the basic level. This is certainly not something that we can say we are giving enough access to children, to especially education. So I have listed healthcare, I've listed education. When it comes to shelter, I didn't choose my parents. I was born on the streets. I was born to a teenage mother, a Kayayo. We sleep in the mercy of the weather. Whose duty is it? My parents cannot provide. They feel the best they have is where we sleep at night in the open air. And truly they are doing their best. But it's not only their duty. The state has a responsibility for me as a child, because I didn't choose that mother or that father. So what is the state's duty in terms of providing shelter for me? I'm not saying the state should pull me away from my mother or my father, but I'm saying that how can the state, because I am born, give some form of support so my parents can give me proper shelter? So that's why this is the reasoning behind seeing that other developed social protection countries would give stipend or money to parents because they have children. Because the state has a duty for their children. It is not just enforcing the law, but the state has a duty to perform when it comes to my shelter, my education, my health, access to legal services. If somebody have defiled me and I go to the police station, the policeman says, okay, my mother needs to go and get a medical exam done. And the doctor says, I'll be invited to the hospital to come in, to the court to give testimony. So I need 400 cedis. I need, some cases, 600 cedis before I will do that medical examination and write it on an official report. That looks like 600 cedis, 200 cedis. It's not for the court, but it is for you to get your medical exam written. But that is a barrier to me getting justice. I have been defiled as a girl. The constitution, the state that I live in must give me justice. The state must go after this person,
Protection.
yes, and make sure that I get justice. So me being denied justice because I do not have money to pay should not be happening in a republic. And this is what we mean by access to essential services. All of us as human beings must have that. And street children cannot be excluded. And I have to say that I was once there. I would have been an urban poor street child because my mother was there. My brothers were there. We were doing our best. My mother was doing her best. Now we left the street at some point, but the point have to be made that it's a lot of struggle out there. And Ohenewa, you didn't choose your parents. I didn't choose my parents. So we must all get the same essential services. I'm not talking luxurious service, essential services. By the definition of the word essential, it things you need to be able to live. If a parent tries to kill any child or deny any child essential services, that parent should be taken on. The same way, if the state denies children access to essential services, the state must be taken on. But I don't know if our democracy or our rule of law have gotten to where we can actually take our government to task and challenge if we are actually giving essential services to children, vulnerable street children. That would have been...
But let me find out. Yeah, let me find out from you. I mean, in the era of COVID, did we have an increase in streetism per your observation from your organizational perspective? And if we did, what were some of the issues that, what actually caused that, if we did?
Okay, thank you again. COVID touched everyone. Our governments are crying, European Union, everyone. Street children already were the marginalized, already were the weak of the weakest. So I want to say that our government was quite on point to try to give children in street situations during lockdown and COVID at least food, things they needed to be able to survive. The only part I have with that is if that is an essential service, then all NGOs that are working with street children should have been called to open, should have been called to operate. Because if you look at the money commitment that was given, I know the healthcare workers are the frontline workers, but people on the streets were at the mercy of the whole situation. And so when we were also told to close, I had cause for concern for that, because where were they going to go? Who was going to? We have worked with these children. Some organizations have worked in this field for over 30 years. So I thought this was a unique point where partnership work would have been exhibited by our government, where the government could have said, okay, it's just a matter of call. If you go on Facebook now, if you go to the social welfare, you will see all the NGOs that are working with street children, and the government could have easily invited us to the table and said, all right, so let's who are the places where are the locations you reach? How can we give you what resources do you think immediately are needed now? How can we work around the shelter? How can we work around the food? And I feel that we could have been able to a lot more use the money more effective. I'm not saying it wasn't effective, but I'm saying we would have used it more effective than we did during the lockdown. But by means of that intervention alone, it should tell you and I and everyone that people got more vulnerable. As an organization, we did a survey. We interviewed all the parents that we had worked with over the years regarding their situation. A lot of them said the way our model works is to help them with the barriers that take them from school. They did indicate that they can give some form of support for their children's education. But when COVID happened, the capital they had, the little money they had that they could use to run their tabletop businesses or to buy vegetables from one wholesaler and retail, all this money was gone. They couldn't afford to take their children back to school. They couldn't even give the basic support that they gave for their children to be able to go to public schools. And the percentage was very, very high. Over 60% of the families had said that. If you read that study, I can share the link of that study with you. And if you looked at, that was education. Health was similar. Shelter, food. So if there was no interventions from organizations like us, Chance for Children, Kinder Paradise, Street Girls Age, even Christ the King Soup Kitchen, and different organizations, Safe Child Advocacy in Kumasi, Muslim Family Counseling Services, and several NGOs that have been in this field for over a decade trying to help. They couldn't have survived. More children are coming on the street. More children, more families' economies have been shattered. So they can't provide the basic support they could give. The whole family ecosystem is ruined, and this is the time for all of us. I know everyone is busily looking at themselves. Everyone is busily checking, how can I save more money in case a COVID or a situation like this is coming again? I may not have the money to be able to. I need to be able to have the money. While we do that, these families' entire capital was like 500 cedis, 1,000 Ghana cedis, 200 cedis. All of it is gone. So those at the top, the middle class and the upper class are busily trying to put money away, whereas the very bottom have nothing left at all that they can feed on. So when crises like this happen, it is time for the whole world to rethink about our values, relook at our values. Why have we placed so much emphasis on luxuries of life, greed, not caring for each other? Because during COVID, we could see that all the fashionable clothes and gadgets and things that we were busily acquiring were of no essence. What was essential was the human connection, how we could reach out to others, even to see human beings. That's when we could see that it's valuable. We are fortunate here in Ghana and in Africa that lockdown is not in effect anymore, that we can go around business. But in other parts of the world, in Europe and the rest, people still are in lockdown. And they are appreciating the value of human relations. If over 600,000 children are on the streets across Ghana, and we do not care in a time like this, then there's no other time we will care. So this is my direct appeal to the government or anyone who is watching. This is the time for us to re-evaluate our lives and help build safety net for the very vulnerable. Because if you are running a business and in the next matter of 5 years, majority of the people cannot afford to buy your products, then your business is going to be out of business. So we need each other. So that's why I like this platform, because you say CSR, corporate social responsibility. It's not just corporate social responsibility. We have personal social responsibility. As a church, we have a social responsibility. Every one of us must have that social responsibility, that we need to care for each other. If you want your business to strive, identify with people who are buying your product. Who are the people buying Indomie most? Who are the people buying your rice most? The Calipo. Who are the people buying? If I want to mention some basic things, services that most of them, MTN, who are the people doing the vending? Who are the people selling the cards? The mobile money operators. Who are these people? Most of them have this connection. How can we invest in these people in a way that in their education, so that they are able to give us better customers? They become better customers, better people that we can share this world with. If we just tend to our greed and stack everything away, we'll realize that we were just doing ourselves a great harm. So, yeah.
Okay. Let me remind our viewers that you're welcome to join the discussion. Please share your comments with us, share your views with us, share your suggestions with us. We are discussing improving access to essential services for street children, and this is at the background that on Monday we marked International Street Children Day, and we are looking at how best as a country we can improve access to essential services for our street children. My guest is Miss Paul Summer. He's the Executive Director for Street Children Empowerment Foundation. You can also share the platform, share the link with your friends, let them join the conversation. Let's have a fruitful discussion. I'm receiving some comments. We'll deal with them later when I'm reading the comments. Now, Paul, let me find out from you, Street Children Empowerment Foundation. I know you have been in existence for so many years. In talking about access, security is also one of the most important things for these children, because most of them are exposed to a lot of things when they find themselves on the streets. It could be sexual harassment, it could be child labor, it could be all manner of things, physical abuse, among others. Now, from your end, let me find out from you, how do you provide security for these children who you are able to rescue from the streets?
Thank you very much. To say sexual harassment, I don't know if that word may be known as much as rape is known on the
As rape,
street.
yeah.
Sexual harassment maybe may apply more to our corporate settings, but on the streets, I work also as a paralegal, and I have counted so many cases where a lot of girls, mostly the boys, are taught to shut up completely, so they don't even voice it. A lot of girls have been sexually abused, and they do not get access to justice. Like I enumerated earlier, it's heartbreaking. It got to a point. We don't have funding for this kind of things. You don't have the basic support pillars. And when you go through legal aid, which is the government department that is marked to do this, you kind of get a sense that as a country, we have not done enough to give access to legal aid, security of children, because recently we have seen an upsurge on Facebook. Every other day I see missing, looking, and everyone is sharing out there. Do we even know the number of children out there on the streets? Or anyone? No, this is serious. Oh. You see, the last head count that was done, it was done in 2010, 2011. What you saw the social welfare published. That's how far back. It's over a decade or anywhere. It's over a decade. So if you do not know how many children are out there on the streets, and as a mother, I am looking for my child, I may never find that child. And anybody, any mean person can do anything to these children, and nobody would trace it, can know where they are. Because as a country, we are waiting for donors to help us count our own children. Is that what we are saying? Because the last head count was done with a donor from France. As a country, we can't count our own. This is very pathetic. I don't know what it would take for the National Population Council, together with the department, bringing stakeholders together and doing head count. I know our own national population census, we are getting on the way where we are going to have that done again. But is there a special focus on excluded groups like street children? I know NHI did something recently where they put out biographies of the working standards of people that registered on the National Identification Authority. Are we paying attention to getting the figures out there on the street? Because that's where you start from. When you talk about security, that's where you start from. And if there are estimates that in Accra, there could be 100,000, there could be 200,000, that in itself is a national security issue. And I keep raising that. It's a national security issue, because if you have a lot of young people out there not in education, not getting access to any of the essential services, what would you think? Or anyone say, let's forget this conversation and let's take you back for a minute. You are growing up and then you realize that my mother is, excuse my language, a drunkard. My dad is not, is an ex-convict. I have a case like a real case like that. Now, I say I'm a Ghanaian. They say I'm a Ghanaian. But there's nothing Ghana is giving me. I bear the name Ghanaian, but there's nothing Ghana is giving me. Everywhere I go, the teacher is turning me away because I don't have money. The health workers are turning me away because I do not have money. Legal services are turning me away. What would you think? What would be your feeling towards this country we call Ghana? How would you feel, or anyone? How would you feel? Would you feel that this country is fair to you? Would you want to be fair to this country? Because everywhere you go, people are denying you access to things just because you were born to a mother you cannot choose to be born to. And your republic is not giving you access to all these things because you were born to that mother. That is not fair. That is something that we need to relook at. And successive government in and out all have social protection things. But I feel that when it comes to the area of street children, we've not even scratched the face of this problem. We have not scratched the face of this problem. We need to wake up. We need to have more conversations like this. We need to have national conversations. Our president listening, incoming aspiring president, need to be having conversation around this topic, because that is where the work is. Trust me, that is where the work is. We had an MP shot, killed, and then my work is tagged. It's a street boy.
Yeah.
He's a street boy. Well, in as much as I won't say he had the right to do that, what did the country do to prepare him not to do that? That's the question. What did we prepare? How did we prepare him in a way that he would think that he should not be doing that? Who have been giving him that kind of support? What is the mental state? When we talk about mental health at all, we're talking about just the basic essential health. But what is going on in people's head and mind sometimes also need that should be categorized as an essential service. But we are just talking the physical health. I have malaria, I have cholera. Children on the street are dying from instance in the 21st century. And we make, so when we are making noise about COVID, they are like, you know what? COVID, we've been dying from very basic things. So when you come and say COVID is far-fetched, I mean, you get what? Although we are trying to educate them, they feel, have you guys ever cared? So until this sickness can kill you, now you want us to stay away? How about we dying from malaria? How about we dying from cholera? How about we dying from common headaches that we get on the street and we don't have access to that para or that we have to pick scrap, we have to sell water, we have to work, we have to do prostitution to be able to eat. So security, I don't want to go there because this should not be had on an online discussion. But our security officials know that having 100,000 children out there on the street without access to essential services, I think I have scratched the face of the problem. That is a major national security issue, and we must, yes, and we must rise up.
Right, because I remember very well when the issue on these children who murdered that 10-year-old boy, I think the discussion on some of these things came up, the level of threats that
yes.
we are supposed to be looking at as a country when it comes to these street children. But let me find out from you, I mean, anytime we talk about streetism, I think we put everything in a broader bracket and say that it is a result of poverty. But are there other causes? Because I know that there are some children, for instance, last night I was in a conversation where Nanaba Namwa was there, and she talked about how she's tried to even help a gentleman move from the street, but she's not been successful. He keeps going back, even though he was able to get him a job. She was able to get him a job. So what are some of the root causes of some of these things? I mean, the issue of streetism. What are some of the street causes, aside the generalization when it comes to poverty issues? What have you identified in your years of work?
Number one, and very sad, is that we have dysfunctional family structures. If I say dysfunctional family structures, on anywhere you find a young man finds you attractive, both of you are engaged in conversations, you find trust with each other, you're in love. The next time you know it, you are talking to your pastor. If your pastor started his church yesterday, before you know it, you are blessed, you are married. Proper preparation of what it means to start a family may not have happened, may have happened. Even if it happened, in most cases, depends on the sects of church or religion's own ideologies. But as a country, we do not have a proper structure within which a family should be like constituted. So they start a family, they are having issues. There's no centers, there's nowhere, counseling centers, any parent can say, I walked in, oh, I had a baby, and it's too stressful. I didn't know it was going to be this stressful. I am thinking of giving up. Can I quit being a mother or a father? Where can they go to? When people are having this mental discussion, where can they go to? Not too soon, this thing becomes an abuse issue, because the mother has no information, the mother has nowhere to go to get support, and then it becomes an abuse. So you will see a mother, for example, think that the best way I can go about it is, well, how can I get popularity? How can I make money? It's a bread and butter issue. So recently, someone was just sentenced for abusing their child. But who taught parents in this country how to be parents? Who is teaching them? Who is teaching us? I'm a parent myself. The basic things we need as parents. And when there are struggles, teenage age of rebellion, we all rebelled at some point. We all did things that our parents, cried sometimes over. They thought they were the strong ones, but we all, one way or another, did things. When that rebellion stage comes, what kind of support do we give to parents? With the police? So the dysfunctional family structures, and people think that abuse is only when a mother have taken iron and bent a boy or a girl and is visible, and the police can then charge. But let me tell you, there are a lot of children walking on our streets who it's almost like articulated truck have run over them. But because it doesn't show on their body, we think they are okay. We think they are okay. So the fundamental thing of abuse, the emotional, psychosocial, mental things drives a lot of children to go out there. A lot of it. I have seen a girl who left the house because she was tagged by a pastor that she was a witch. And she also had her own ways of being lazy, don't want to do anything, and all of that. So her parents were having this struggle, constant friction. So she left the house and went to sleep in 37 station. Now, when we got involved, we could actually see this is serious psychosocial issues. It's the girl has an underlying mental health issue, and the parents are thinking that talking on this girl is the only way of solving it. But some of these cases, they need medication. Some of these cases, they need constant counseling, they need constant therapy to be able to get out of the situation. So we are having so many of the cases lazily being attributed to poverty, but the underlying issue, dysfunctional family structures, is one of the underlying issues where a lot of the struggles in relationships, in family settings, are not properly being resolved. Then we have, on top of these ones, the physical abuses that we can see. Some fathers are having carnal knowledge with their own children. I'm using legal term now. They are defiling, they are having sex with their children. They are attempting to do that. Some mothers are doing sexually abusive things to their children that is making them want to leave, or relatives around them. Things like that. So all these things, some of them are driving factors. Of course, the poverty is fundamental and it's there. But one of the key factors is what I have mentioned, dysfunctional family structures. Then there is increasingly the gap between the rich and the poor in this country. There is no middle class. As it stands now, I don't think that we have a clear middle class in this country that we can say are earning decent. It's either you are poor or you are rich, and the gap is widening. So that widening gap makes people feel that they need to how can they quickly make money? How can we quickly make money? Our family is generations behind. These people, their families are generations ahead. So maybe this is where the quick money syndrome is coming from. So if I come on TV and I say, oh, if you bring me 1,000, I'll double it for you. Yay, that's a quick way to cut the corner and make it. And we have also a big thing of corruption that is eating us, that everywhere we, even street children turn, they see duty bearers collecting money on the streets all the time. They see hospital people, when they have to give them essential services, wanting money, no matter how small, from them. So these things fuel a desire for people to want to cut corners and do things that would give them money quickly, which most times we attribute the street for being able to do. So that is what these are some the main proponent. Then in the middle of this is partnership work. Like Nanaba Namwa is doing. She's doing a great job, but she needs to connect. You can pass my details to her if you have her details. I've not met her in person, so I do not know her. There are several journalists that are trying to do good job. But how can you work in partnership with the NGOs, the academia, the university? They are writing a lot of paperwork, a lot of knowledge is being kept on shelves. How can we connect that to solving this problem? Because the professors and the doctors are watching and listening to this conversation. The journalists are doing their own bit. We are all working in silos. This silo work is not making us be able to make any proper progress, holistic progress. For example, as an NGO, we find a child on the street. If the child has been abused, it shouldn't take SEF, which is focused on education and health, to have to go and do legal aid. But if there was proper partnership work where legal aid was working with DOSU, and DOSU had more structures at the community level, and we could easily pass this girl on and she would get all the essential services, I do not need to be involved all the way. But right now, if you pick a child from the street, like Nanaba Namwa, you need to be involved all the way. You have taken the person from the street, you've given them some kind of education, economic, you say, come and do this. but the person is having mental health issues. Clearly, going back to the gutter or to the dump where you pick that person, you can, in some cases, I'm not saying in this guy's case that's what he has, because I don't know this particular case, but in some cases there is a need for them to have therapy, meet a counselor. If you want to be religious, if there is a religious angle to it, then we need to work with our churches and our mosques to be able to deal with the religious components that will come with it. We are people that believe in religion. So if we feel that religion could be playing a role in it, partnership work, the churches, the mosque, the police, the education, GES itself need to have street children outfit. But how are they working with the NGOs that are out there 24/7? GES may never have to go on the street. We may just have to go on the street, talk to them, build a relationship, prepare them, bring them to GES. The government introduced something they call complementary basic education, but it was focused more for rural Fulani herdsmen. How about the urban poor street children? Can we expand this policy to include them so that they are able to have their basic support, like NGOs like us and different individuals who are interested in helping can easily do their part and not have to take on a whole battle? Because right now, if you take it on, you take a whole battle. Let me give you a typical example. We tried to start a boarding school focused for street children in the outskirts of town.
Okay.
And we had to build our own security. We had to build our own health structures. We had to build our own virtually everything. But if we had partnership work, our interest of helping street children in a boarding setting will not be something that we need to take all upon ourselves, and the cost will not rise that high. So we can do this, but we need partnership work in the middle. So that's one of the main reasons, actually, that is causing this.
Now, let me find out from you. I know the parents are also to be tackled. At what angle are we looking at the role they also play? Because, I mean, you've talked about, some of the processes, the discussions that goes on when it comes to when people are dating and maybe pregnancy comes in. How are we tackling the issue from a parental perspective?
Wonderful question. And again, this is what comes to the partnership work. Our churches are doing some form of counseling. Every church has a counseling unit. Every mosque has that. Before you do awure, you see somebody. And I'm sure all traditionalists, our other religions have that. How can we connect that when a parent, there is a national fundamental guide for being parent and dealing with parent, that when a parent comes to you, you can engage them. So for us at SEF, we are having to do 3 pillars: economic training for parents, financial literacy, and parenting skills. Because these are the 3 key reasons we see are the reason children end up, the parents are not able to support their own children. A parent thinks that at the age 12, she was bringing money home because she was seeing a lot of guys, having a lot of boyfriends. And so she thinks that there's nothing wrong if the little girl is seeing men at 9, 10, 11. There's nothing wrong with it. She will say, I was carrying a lot of water. I was doing a lot of hazardous things. I was fishing. I was doing things that could have killed me. I didn't die. So you will also not die. So why are you complaining? Why are you saying it's a child right? We need them to understand that this hazardous work we have written in our constitution, that no child is allowed to do hazardous work. This is what it means. Because yes, if the parents cast their mind back, they will see that they lost a lot of their friends to these hazardous activities. So the state wants to prevent that we lose these children. We need to build an understanding with people why we are saying that children should not be doing these child labor related activities. But until you build that understanding, they will rebel and not want that this happens. Put that away. If a child is rebelling, there's a rebellious stage. But how many parents know this? And even if they know, where do they go to get that constant reminder that, hey, your child is at this stage, and on this stage, these are the features, or these are the things you will see. At this stage, these are the things you see. At that stage, these are the things you see. Where do they go to get this constant reminder? We need to have that. We need to have that as a state so that the parents who are struggling and dealing with things can actually go somewhere and get therapy and get the help, because the parents are dealing with things themselves. They say that patriarchs of a mountain, if as a state, if we want to give our children the best, if we want our children to be competing in the 21st century, we have to look at the kind of parents we have that are raising our children. If the parents we have that are raising our children are still not understanding basic concepts of child rights, are not understanding basic concepts of nudity and its abuse, emotional abuse, and all the basic abuses that we define. If they do not understand it, that education is supposed to bring the child the best, how would you convince them that the child should be off the streets and should be in school? But as an NGO that is focused on children, should I be the one also educating these parents? No. That's why I bring in the partnership work. We need to have a broader national conversation and engage a holistic approach, 360 social work approach in dealing with these issues when it comes to providing access to street children.
But that brings me to my next question. Now, every now and then when you drive on the street, especially for me when I get to the airport area, I get a bit scared at the things I see. I mean, you see these kids rushing to your car, asking for money. And like Gabi Oshudaku would say, I mean, you look into their eyes and you see fire, like anger in their eyes. And for some of us, that's what scares us. How do we win the battle against streetism? What are we supposed to be getting right to at least we might not be able to get it all through, but curtail it in terms of the numbers of children that we have on our streets?
We start from the point I stopped. Partnership work. Invite all key stakeholders to the table. Have a national steering committee. Have a national steering committee. I'm not saying the one that is going to go and take tea, drink tea in all the big places. I'm saying the one that is boots on ground, the one that is actually at the forefront of this. The people, I'm not saying you go and sit in some conference somewhere and say you are couching a national strategy for street children when the problem is before our eyes. This is not rocket science. This can be solved if we are willing. Leadership must initiate. Leadership must initiate. A lot of people will be willing, are willing to commit resources to this. COVID-19 taught us one individual, together with other organizations, built a whole hospital. This should tell you that the Ghanaian is not apathetic to having change. No, it should tell us that we actually want to see the change, but we want leadership to initiate the process. As an NGO, I cannot go and instruct the ministry to come and have partnership work with me. Same as the universities, same as the media. But if leadership says, okay, this is a problem. Gabi has said it. Anaba have said it. Paul is saying it. Kingdom Paradise is saying it. Ohiniwa is saying it. Let's sit down. Guys, how can we move forward? We put up a national plan. We share, we communicate. Just like it was done during COVID. We can actually address this problem that other West African countries, the whole world is struggling with street children problem. Just mind you that. But we can have a solution that the whole world can look up to us and say, indeed, this is Nkrumah's Ghana. Because again, they are leading the charge in solving this. But if we sit in our silos, if we sit in our various places and we decide to just complain and write on social media, that is not going to solve it. The first thing is pick up the phone, pick up the call. Street children, our contact details are all there. You can give us a call. You can call all the other key stakeholders and let's sit on the table and have actual practical boots on ground, holistic social work solution for this problem.
Paul, we have celebrated we've marked the International Day for Street Children. What milestones should we be setting for ourselves as a country? How do we get there? I mean, every now and then we keep celebrating or we keep marking the day. I know government agencies will go and sit down in conference rooms, just talk, is always the rhetorics. We are not doing much to, as you've elaborated over the conversation. What yardsticks are we supposed to be setting for ourselves going forward, at least before we mark the next, the 2020 International Day for Street Children?
Thank you. And I think your platform, CSR Lens, is you are doing your bit, but it shouldn't stop with just this conversation, this interview. Awareness is the general thing. There's nothing to celebrate about an International Day for Street. There's everything about awareness. That's why CEF, my organization, together with all the NGOs that have been in this industry, Future of Africa, Chance for Children, Street Girls Age, Kinder Paradise, we were all out there on the streets. Simple messages carrying placards that reads, street children, whose responsibility? Whose responsibility is it? That's the basic question we're asking. We have to raise the awareness enough. Somehow, we are not angry enough as a people that we want to solve this. So I would be very unhappy to grant interviews again next year when we do not have a proper national conversation going on. So the media leads the chat. You are the invisible force in this country, and social media is beginning to chat that. Anybody watching this must share this. We shouldn't share it only today. We shouldn't share it only tomorrow. We must share it every other day. We must share it every day. We must write about it. We must be angry enough about it that we have the power. We elect our leaders into power. So we must be angry enough that they will see that we want this change. But if we are just going to, because it's a day to mark, we just mark it and talk and get all sensational and forget about it. The COVID that even made us invest 1 million Ghana cedis is not gone, and we are already forgetting this. I thought that right after COVID, there will be a national steering committee for street children and vulnerable people, but I am not seeing that, and that is what we are calling for. That is what you should be doing. Constantly, any platform you find yourself, it doesn't have to be poor. Raise that awareness. And you can join our group. Come closer. We are forming a group now. Dr. Denchi is leading our group, Ernestina Denchi from the University of Ghana Center for Social Policy is leading this chat. So we are calling on everyone. Join us. Let's build that conversation. Let's keep going with this so that we are able to actually come up with a solution, because all the resources, like our president said, are in this country. Ghana beyond age. Mm-hmm. How can we make that happen for that street child? Very, very important.
Great. Now, there was a question earlier. Thank you so much, but I want you to address this briefly before we wrap up. Robin Eblin says that you earlier you were talking about abuse of children, and so he wanted to find out, are there numbers for abused female children, and how big is the need to do projects on female focus? So if you could briefly address that.
Yeah, I do not have the facts.
The numbers, figures, okay.
Because I think that the only figures we even get is from DOFSU, and mostly it's focused on parents. It's not focused really on children. I am yet to come by a national statistics that talks about the number of abused female children. But again, it points to the fact that we don't even know the numbers out there. We don't know the general numbers to know the kind of abuses they go through, to know the number of girls that are being abused. But I would say that it's a really, really big problem. A lot of teenage girls becoming mothers, and mostly from rape, mostly from defilement, from sex work, because they thought it could be lucrative. There's genuine cases where girls are getting involved with other young boys, but it's a big national problem. The numbers are not getting less. A lot more children are coming out there. And Robin, thank you very much for this question. But a lot more needs to be done here. Street Girls Aid and other NGOs that are girl-focused have done this before, but are still doing this. But I can say that it's a big focus area, because on the streets, the boys can carry the heavy loads. They can do the manual jobs, the big things to be able to earn money. But for girls, it's even more difficult for them to be able to carry these things. So the avenues left for them is if the macho guy have carried something and earned money, then you somehow have to go to him to give you. So for him to give you, he also needs sexual favors, or he's going to rape you, or that kind of relationship. So monetizing sex and that kind of thing. So it's a big need area, and there will be a big reason that we can go more into this and join the others that are helping our girls focus in the streets to come up with more interventions.
Okay. All right, Robin. So I guess you've got your answer there. I'm sure you look for ways and means for us to for a collaboration with any of the NGOs that he has mentioned. Thank you all. Thank you, Paul, for your time. I am very grateful for the insights you've shared on my platform. I want to believe that every single person who joined the conversation have gained something, an action to take home. And I'm very grateful for your time, and all the team at Street Children Empowerment Center. Thank you for the coordination. Ibrahim, I'm very grateful for the coordination as well. Ibrahim is a communications officer for Street Children Empowerment Center. So this is where we wrap up. We draw the curtains on today's episode. Let me say a big thank you to Elisha T. Joseph for your comments, Robin, Evelyn, Tony Nyame, Gid, Mackenzie, and the others who joined the conversation. We are very grateful to you all. Don't forget to like our page and do share all our productions that we have in subsequent weeks. Do have a good evening. Thanks for watching.